Hello, footies. Welcome along to your latest dose of Football Ultimate Team podcasting goodness. We are Foot in Review, powered by footcoaching.com. It is Tuesday, the 19th of November, around lunchtime. As we record this, my name is Dan Wimbush, otherwise known as Wimby. I am joined for today's show by the scout, Nathan Down. Shaq is on his travel, so can't join us for our usual Tuesday/Wednesday club goodness. However, we've got plenty to get into, including title update number 5. We've got one of the most eagerly anticipated promos on the horizon. And we're also going to be talking, giving our follow-up to last week's topics, whether we have seen some green shoots of recovery from EA Sports or whether things are continuing in the wrong direction. Thank you, as always, to all of our Patreon supporters over at patreon.com/footinreview. Consider that your digital chip jar plus your access to loads of other great benefits, such as the Art of Foot Show and much, much more. But let's get into it. Nathan, my friend, how are you?
I'm very well, thanks, Dan. It was a nice warm -6 degrees here this morning, so those on the video platform can see I'm still wearing my hoodie, unashamedly so. It's Baltic. It is really flipping cold here, so nice to cozy in, have a wee chat for the next 45 minutes or so. Shame Shaq can't join us because I really do enjoy the three of us being on for Tuesday Club, but I'm sure we've got plenty to look forward to and chat about, so looking forward to going.
Yeah, it'll be like 30 degrees wherever Shaq is. So, you don't want that kind of temperature comparison. I mean, it's a balmy 3 degrees here in the south of England as well. So, we're not doing too bad down here in the Thames Valley. Look, let's get into it. Title update number 5. I can't believe we're on title update number 5 already. But Nate, this kind of came a bit out of the blue. None of this was really kind of expected. Then just all of a sudden, late last night, it kind of emerged on the Trello board, and then it was just straight up released. So at the time that people are listening to this, chances are people have actually had the chance to play a few games with it. Have you had a chance to dive on this morning?
I've played a few games, and to be honest, I can't. It's the same as the other sort of patches we've had. There's not really a noticeable difference just yet. I've only played a few squad battles, which you wouldn't notice a lot. A couple of rivals, and then I've done the objective, the friendly objective that was out last night. Blitzed through that, so nothing major to report. To be honest, if they hadn't said there was a patch out, I wouldn't really notice there was anything different.
Yeah, well, let's get into some of the things that they've said that they have changed, and I'll run through the updates. The only thing that's technically comes under gameplay under made the following change is crosses can now result in the ball moderately landing further ahead of the receiver. And Nathan, I was a bit confused by this. I'm not sure. Is this a nerf or is this a buff to crossing? Because part of me is like, oh, is this going to make it easier for those lovely whipped crosses that your striker arrives onto? Or is this going to make it harder because your crosses are going to be a bit less accurate? I mean, what do you think this will do?
Going by experience over the last 6 weeks or so of the game, I'm hoping it's a buff to it. I think whip crosses this year so far hasn't been as prevalent as the end of sort of last year. I love a good old-fashioned cross into the box for a volley or a header. So I think crossing's been quite erratic, to be fair, this time. It's definitely leading more to the link up and the nice passing or even the cutback goals again. So I'm hoping it's an increase in definitely in rush. I mean, we played a bit of rush yesterday, and the crossing and rush is abysmal, like so bad. So hopefully it kind of tweaks that a little bit. And I'm not saying make it super OP, but you can cross in real life football, and they don't always just go 16 foot in the air and wait for it to come down with snow on it, or go straight to the keeper. So hopefully it'll be a little bit of an improvement. That's obviously yet to be seen.
Yeah, I mean, look, you mentioned rush and crosses. There is one thing, I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but in the address the following issues category, it does say sometimes a lob pass could have occurred instead of a requested cross in rush matches. Whether that fixes the problem you've just described, I don't know, because part of me just thinks it's just a way they want the mode and the way the physics just handle crosses because of the smaller pitch and things like that. But it remains to be seen. So that's what they've done to crossing. Again, we'll probably have much more feedback when we get to these shows later in the week. Of course, John will be back with daily updates you'll be getting them on Thursday morning and Friday morning. And then, of course, you'll have the main show returning with whatever promo we get next on Friday night / Saturday morning. Again, you get access to the show early if you remember the Patreon, so it gives you an extra reason to subscribe there. Right, let's move on to the addressed the following issues section. Right, These next two are paired up quite nicely. The first one is the defensive line could have dropped deeper than intended while the attacking team was controlling the ball in the defending team's half. And the second one is central and defensive midfielders could have dropped too deep when the attacking team entered the defensive team's side of the pitch. So, Nathan, on the surface, this does seem to be trying to address the long-held critique of, teams dropping too deep, parking the bus. This does seem to maybe offer a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel in that regard.
Yeah, definitely. It's been around, especially the socials and the threads of FC, that you don't really need to control anybody. You can just sit back, and it's really hard to break down. So I think there has been a tweak. That's been one of the more noticeable ones. My games have been ridiculously high scoring throughout, even in the friendlies and stuff. So I think that this might be a good thing. I'm playing a flat 4-4-2. It has, though, kind of put it into my mind that maybe I need to go to the 4-4-2 defensive just to give that solidarity, because my games are ending something ridiculous at times, like 7-5 and such. So it definitely makes it more enjoyable. But for those of you that are kind of used to relying on your centre mids to make things a bit more secure, it's definitely going to tweak the approach play so far anyway.
Yeah, it sounds like one of those things where, you want it a lot and then you actually get it and you're like, oh God, I've got to suddenly do a lot more defending than you used to, because the long-held critique of this game has been that there's not enough manual defending. Manual defending isn't rewarded. And I like to think of myself as someone that's quite decent with manual defending, but I'm not going to lie. I will rely on my CDMs. I will drag them back and keep my back four intact, because that's the most effective way to play this game. But I've also got no problem if they're changing it now to make it a bit more open, because I think I am denied more by the AI defense than my AI defense saves me. Does that make sense?
100%. It's the same old thing where you see a player against you that batters you, so you think you'll use it, and all of a sudden, they turn to Prime Bebe instead of being Prime R9. So I absolutely get that. And to be fair, I've seen your defensive work, and you're a very good, solid defender. My issue is that I get really bored and I go kamikaze, and I don't have anyone there to save me, which I know is the point of it, but it helps me when I'm just getting kind of my attention span goes. I see a shiny object and try and chase it down.
Yes, you are a moth drawn to the flame sometimes. Let's move on. Sometimes a ground pass could have incorrectly sent the ball behind the intended receiver. Now, I posted an example of this just in the Discord a couple of days ago, right at the end of one of my games, of a player just, instead of sending a really simple pass 5 yards, deciding to randomly ping it into danger 20 yards away to a player that was behind him. So I wonder if this is that. There was also some questions whether actually the power of passes and things like that has been greatly altered this year. So I'm not going to just simply say that this was happening to me constantly. But Nath, certainly stray passes have been more frequent, at least for me this year.
No, 100%. It seems to be that you'll pick a player to pass to, and sometimes it'll go to it, and other times it goes to a random player, like you say, that's either in danger or just not going to help continue your attack or whatever. So I find that all the time. I look back at my controls and think, no, I'm definitely aiming at the right person. So hopefully this addresses it. I can't say I've noticed too much change, but hopefully it's going to be, because sometimes you play a pass and you go, there's no logical reason why the ball should go to him or her.
Look, we're all guilty of convincing ourselves that we played the right pass, but actually if you went back on it, a lot of the time, especially in previous games, you'd be like, okay, I could see how the game maybe did that. But this one has just felt just too many instances of I've definitely not aimed there, and it's a simple pass that's gone astray. So hopefully this is what this one clears up. Next, tackling inputs did not always register in locked to player modes. And then we've got a few things on goalkeeping, and I think this is going to divide opinion. It's already caused a few discussions in the Discord. I'll read through these four ones, and then we can talk about them in detail. In rare instances, goalkeepers could have jumped significantly higher than intended. Improved goalkeeper decision-making when attempting to make saves as the ball crosses the goal line. Improved goalkeeper positioning when attempting to save short-distance shots. And goalkeepers could have sometimes not attempted to make a save against powerful, long-distance shots. Now, Nathan, I think we can both agree that goalkeepers jumping too high is something that you'd want to see fixed. Moving on to the decision maker when attempting to make saves the ball across the goal line, I've seen some really wacky ones this year. So again, I'm not too upset about that. You?
No, not at all. I think the more realistic you can get it, the better.
But it's these two that I think will cause a little bit of controversy. And again, we need to see how it plays out. But for me, especially that this third one, improved goalkeeper positioning when attempting to save short distance shots. I think the goalkeepers are already too well positioned from short range shots. I think they already save probably more than they need to.
Yeah, absolutely. Unless you're getting the ball at an angle, and even if you don't have the finesse straight, trying to finesse it in, it's a lot harder to score sort of closer distance. So, although that I've noticed an increase of people kind of almost tapping the shoot button and it trickling over the line. So maybe it's addressing that, because sometimes you look at a shot going, that's not going to be. I know it's a video game, but it wouldn't be a professional goalkeeper, something like that. So I'm hoping it's just a tiny tweak to kind of make you kind of almost have to finish the shot rather than just look on a lucky mechanic.
Yeah, that's my hope as well. And this one on long distance shots, again, it's been kind of speculated. Does this relate just to power shots? Is it, just a regular drill from outside the box? I mean, your thoughts on the long distance?
I think it's going to see an increase in finesse between that and the first one where they stopped them jumping too high from shots. I think this is going to put the onus back on finesse shots. It reads to me like they're going to nerf power shots, because driven shots on the edge don't really seem to have many issues, really. You get the odd one that you hit sweetly, which you're going to get regardless. But I think this is to try and sort of decrease the effectiveness of these power shots.
Yeah, I do wonder whether there will be a boost or a nerf to finesse shots, because in my head I can sort of imagine several scenarios where my goalkeeper's almost just kind of shuffled alongside the ball when it's been a long finesse goal and not made the dive. So I wonder whether it might be for stuff like that. But then does a finesse count as a powerful shot? Probably not. So look, we will see. Headers were sometimes significantly less accurate than intended. I agree with this one. The amount of headers from corners and stuff that go well wide is not good enough for me. Ground passes performed during free kicks were not always directed towards the intended receiver. Yeah. In some instances, lob passes were less accurate than intended. I think a lot of people would argue, Nate, that lob passes are too accurate already.
Yeah, well, it depends. If you've got along the whipped cross one or the long passing, they're super accurate and really effective. So it'll be interesting to see if it's going to nerf like just your standard long balls, or if you have to have a certain trait to kind of open the play up a little bit more. But that one I'm not too worried about, because if you're fairly solid in your shape, it's not the worst thing in the world. But I also quite like playing long passes wide, so I'm quite intrigued by this one to see how it plays out.
Yeah, improved ball physics in certain contested shooting and clearance scenarios. I've seen far too many instances of the ball disappearing off at 200 miles an hour from that. So I'm glad on that one. Players could have lost the ball easier than intended while being contested during a skill move. I've seen, again, lots of people complain about this one, the fact that they're feeling like skills just never seem to work. So again, I think this one's a positive.
Yeah, I've cut out skilling from my game. There's not so many woohoos when I'm playing anymore, and more like, damn it. So hopefully, I don't want it to be that the ball sticks to them and every skill move comes off. But even like the elasticos, like last year, if you did it at the right time, you knew when you were going to kind of come away with the ball. And this year, step overs, elasticos have been really struggling. The only good one's been like the fake shot ball roll that you get with the trickster. I think it's just a standard trickster play style, but that's the only one that I think's been super reliable. The rest of them don't seem to be as good as they have been in recent years.
Yeah, then roll on to a few sort of kind of that are going to be lesser important. Improved referee logic, make advantage calls in rush matches. In rare scenarios, incorrect injury animations were occurring. Improved goalkeeper logic in rush matches when clearing the ball. The one I mentioned earlier, sometimes lob pass could have occurred instead of a cross in rush. In rare cases, a buzzer-beating goal from a corner did not count. Requested skill moves are sometimes not performed when requesting near the touchline. I don't know if that's just for rush or overall gameplay. This one, again, feels like burying the lead a little bit. Addressed instances of player switching not functioning as intended. I think we've all had our beefs with player switching.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think with the amount of mechanics and animations in the game, I don't think this will ever be perfect, to be honest. I think this is one of those things that it's going to switch to the wrong person occasionally anyway. But if they can improve it as best they can, then I'm really happy with that.
Yeah. The thing with all of these is And I've said this before, they used to occasionally do in that Friday what was that Friday web show they used to have? What was that called?
Not Goals, was it? It's the one that was on the 5:30 at YouTube, wasn't it?
Yeah, I can't remember what the show was, but they used to have occasionally like have devs on whatever, showing actual practical examples. And even in some patch notes in the past, they've had practical examples. I would love for these to be properly explained. Like, it's one thing for us to be sitting here, theorizing on stuff. For like the crossing, for example, why have you not got a game dev putting an example of, oh, well, here's an example of how it would be before, here's what's going since. And it's the same with a lot of these things. Like, if you've made the change, explain them for people. Don't leave it as a kind of a mystery bag for us to find out. And just a couple of final ones. Improve sub-logic to better avoid unnecessary CPU AI substitutions. I'm sure you've encountered this in squad battles. Just the opponent will just make a random sub on like 28 minutes.
Yeah, I think it's usually if you're 3 goals or more up, then half the team gets hooked really quickly. So
yeah,
I quite like that. I hope that the other team's morale goes through the floor. And you can just back them even more, Your bench, you're not coming back on and you're dropped for the next game.
Absolutely. And reduce instances of unnecessarily suggested early game substitutions. So, yeah, all good things. Then there's a couple of other bits and pieces about stability issues during the transfer market and evolution progression. Summary UI elements were misaligned, apparently, and just some other kits and all that jazz. The one other change that isn't really part of this patch, but I wanted to get your theory on is, and this kind of leads us into a little bit of the content that John was talking about in the Daily Show that was released early on Tuesday morning for most of you. There was a bug with the player picks that they weren't able to be opened on the web and companion apps, just the console. And then just all of a sudden, again, unannounced by EA, they've completely changed the animation and the way you now open a player pick. So you now have to scroll through. It's really difficult to explain. You will know it as soon as you do it. You have to scroll through each option and then pick and confirm your player pick. And I saw some people doing this on console because they then updated the console version as well. It looks painfully slow on console.
It's one of these things that it's actually really nice for the first maybe 5 player picks you do. It kind of builds the suspense, so you don't get them all up at once. You have to. It's almost like you reveal the cards. We'll all have seen some of those streamers kind of, they block off the player picks or whatever as you go. So to begin with, it was really nice. But once you kind of do a couple of them, you're like, oh, the novelty's gone, and I just kind of want to see what I've got. Especially just now because it's always just dupe anyway. So it'd be quite nice to kind of get the pain over with. But I think if you're one of these people that just likes a casual player pick, it's actually really nice. But if you're somebody like ourselves that seem to grind quite hard and then put quite a lot of player picks on, it just seems like they've changed it for change's sake.
Yeah, as you said, it's going to be really nice for when you're doing like an icon pick or a hero pick because it builds that suspense. But when, you're opening and you just got 78 players to choose from, it's just going to be annoying. And I feel for the streamers and stuff who use those player pick openings as their content because that's going to really slow them down as well. So look, I'm glad they fixed the issue. It was a joke. This went back to Rivals Rewards, I think, last week. People were just suddenly unable to open picks on the companion and web app. And of course, if you're away from your console, the only way to correct it was to go back on your console. But if you were away and you just had this player pick just sat there, you couldn't open any other packs, you couldn't do anything. So for people like myself that were trying to menu grind, I was like, well, this is really annoying. Basically, you've bricked my companion app with this stupid coding. And again, how do you break something that has worked for years? Anyway, we ranted it up. Well, we had enough fierce and strong discussions last week.
we did. Like I say, it's quite nice short term, but I think it's one of these that's going to get old really, really quickly.
Well, referencing last week's show, of course, I think we were pretty vocal and where we stood on the game and our disappointment, kind of the direction that EA were taking. And I think that continued, to be honest, Nath, through most of the weekend. I think the content through certainly Saturday was just poor. Was the EA were doing nothing to liven it up. They've gone I will give them credit, they've gone some of the way to making things a little bit easier and a little bit more enjoyable, certainly on the menu front. because we did have player picks, as just mentioned, that were released last night on Monday. We had a quasi-league SBC out with the France Challenge as well, which, again, as someone that's a menu grinder like myself, that is absolutely up my street. Enables things like the bronze pack method and stuff to, again, be more profitable and generally good. But the downside, again, Nathan, that people have always, keep going back to, and Nepenthes is a particularly vocal critic of this, is where are you getting the fodder to do all these things? It feels, again, cynical from EA to have released 3 separate grinds at a time when there's not actually that many good ways to just get these basic gold common cards.
Yeah, absolutely. When you look at the rewards for pretty much everything, it's all like rare player packs or 75 plus rare players. So there's not a lot. There's the odd gold pack or premium gold pack, but that's really minimal. So it doesn't see you through unless, the cynic and me and, you and Shaq have kind of discussed this as well. But the cynic is go to the store and get your provision packs for X amount of coins or EA points. So I managed to do the French one. I think I spent 5k on one player, and that was it. So that was fine, but wouldn't be able to cycle through it again. It's quite nice. I mean, I know it's been touched on before, but I still think the Till one's a really strange grind because the card itself is only 85. It looks really good, but I still can't get my head around why you're doing League SBCs and then you get a Bundesliga card. Like I say, I know it's been touched on, but I unlocked it yesterday. I think we were chatting away in the Discord. I still can't get my head around that at all, apart from the fact it's a French player, but it's just weird.
Yeah, again, just the whole kind of lack of quality control and thought that just kind of blights these things. And like you say, like you can't go to any other place other than it is EA wanting to drive people to the store, because otherwise they have levers they can pull with, even if it's a premium bronze and a premium silver upgrade or a 75x5 upgrade and things like that, or the exchanges, they could bring all of these things back. But clearly they want to hold the reins and keep people back from accessing all this fodder and from doing, an unlimited grind, which, again, as we say repeatedly, we understand they're a business, they want to make money, but they have leaned too often this year in the camp of we'll be on the side of stingy rather than on the side of, we'll let people have a little bit of fun. As I said last week over and over again, they could have their cake and eat it in this situation, but they're choosing at the moment to very much not to. And look, the criticisms have continued on the gameplay, whether this patch title update 5 changes it. But again, one of the more notable members of the community, Boris, he posted, no patch can save FC25. It's doomed. Many noticed big issues at the beginning, and these issues will remain until the end. It's clearly a performance issue on consoles where there are way too many animations for 60 frames per second to handle. It results in the very heavy experience. Unless FC26 runs on 120 FPS, next year will be the same, if not worse. The only way to play FC25 in a somewhat successful way is to be completely abusing broken mechanics. The beautiful game is gone. Now, Nathan, you have the advantage you actually play on PC with that slightly higher frame rate. And others have sort of said that, PC is that a bit of a safe haven. Have you been able to compare, PC? Have you been able to go and play on any consoles?
No, I've never played it on consoles, and I actually tweaked my settings yesterday. I think Cressy released, this is the best way to have a mix of performance and visual and graphics, which is obviously more performance based, but it was actually really good. So my game now actually feels really, really silky smooth. So I've said all along, I can't really gripe about the actual gameplay as much. There's bits in it that I dislike, obviously, the same with any game, but I've not had the same frustrations as, say, yourself and Shaq have had with it. So I do feel a little bit on my high horse sitting here saying, like, no, all's fine, but it genuinely is. Like, PC's been really good, so I can't really, put it down too much for that. It's more just the generic actual gameplay features rather than the running of it that's been an issue for me.
Yeah, and maybe I'm not as deep into and sophisticated in noticing what is causing the issues, but look, I find it very hard to sit here and strongly disagree with people so experienced. And it's not just one. This is the thing we were saying last week. It's not just one voice saying this, or a couple of the usual suspects that will always kind of moan and might be doing it to get a few clicks and stuff. This is an almost universal critique from well-respected, well-viewed content creators and from casuals as well, that there is something fundamentally not quite right in this game. Now, whether Boris is right and this is something that's unpatchable and it's just a fundamental way the game is built, that does remain to be seen. I'm hopeful that they can keep tweaking things to get it into a more usable state. But I do kind of agree. I think this whole just adding of animation, and every year, don't it, we get it, it's always Hypermotion 6, Hypermotion 2, Hypermotion whatever. We've added 1,000 new animations. It's like, well, was anybody sitting there? Does anyone sit there in their living room going, you know what? I'm going to stop playing this game because my defender's not doing the little pull his hamstring warm-up animation midway through the game, or they've not tousled their hair as they've gone past a person. Just stupid things like that. I go back to the Pro Evolution Soccer example. People loved PES back in the day, and they loved it even though it didn't have licenses. You had a handful of licensed teams. Of course, the graphics was the PS2 era, but that didn't matter because the gameplay was so good. So why it feels to me that they're just fluffing up stuff to make it appear new and great and give you a reason to buy it. Whereas actually, because as we've talked about so many times, the code is so, spaghettified and written on top of, that it just now seems to be getting to the point where they're breaking more than they're fixing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think when you're charging, £90 for a game, you've kind of got to spin it that you're doing X, Y, and Z. And Hypermotion sounds tremendous. It sounds like, oh, this is going to be amazing. But in reality, it's not. You've seen other games. PES has taken time off and come back. Maybe not stronger, but it's come back. WWE, the games took a whole year off because they said the game wasn't great. We've seen Football Manager now miss a year, or maybe not miss a year, but delay for quite a substantial period of time. EA aren't going to do that. They're on a cash cow, so it's not like they've got that sort of thought in their head that we're not going to do EA 26, FC 26. They're going to do FC 25.5 and have an update. Like, they're not going to do that because you see by the figures they're still getting a ridiculous amount of money, and so I don't think it's going to really do anything unless people stop playing. But at the same time, you've got people like myself that still enjoys playing, so I'm not going to stop playing because it's not great on console because it's still decent on PC. Do you know what I mean? So I think they're in. I'll say it's a difficult spot. It's not difficult for them because they're just going to keep doing what they're doing. But the player base itself has kind of thoughts and decisions. And we've seen there's more football games being released soon. I think.
UFL's out. I think a week Friday. I think.
There we go. So it remains to be seen how that's going to affect it. I could imagine it's going to have some people sort of go into that for a few weeks and probably coming back to FC is my educated guess. But things like that could only be a good thing for FIFA in terms of, for EA in terms of, wake up guys, we've lost a lot of players. Let's actually pull our fingers out and do something here.
Yeah, and look, that leads us nicely into, on the more positive side of things, we are coming up to probably what is, this promo has been so anticipated now. It's almost in danger of not being able to live up to its own hype because Thunderstruck does seem to be on the way. The leaks are out there. We're not spoiling too much. I don't think, Thunderstruck came out around Black Friday last year. It looks like, and it was one of the most if not the most well-received promo in the entire of the FC24 cycle. So, people have been clinging on to the hope that in FC25, Thunderstruck / Black Friday, whatever they brought around that time, would similarly kind of save and rejuvenate, certainly on the menu side of things. For those of you that weren't around last year, Thunderstruck provided a promo team. There was a best of impacts. There was a whole new set of icons where we had a lot of good SBCs out. And just most importantly, the pack weight, Nath, just seemed to be better. These cards seemed packable. I was like packing an MTT every 3 or 4 packs, it felt like. Or was it Kieran Tierney, I think, had one of the lower rated cards as well. I'm not saying everyone was getting like the top ones, but everyone was seemingly getting at least, some of the lower ones on a regular basis. And the menu content was banging with upgrades and SBCs and packs and things like that. So it made everybody warm and fuzzy. Are you optimistic that we're going to get that same experience? What looks to be a week on Friday, because that's when Black Friday is.
I think we have to be optimistic because I don't think content could really go much lower than we've seen so far. My SBC storage at the moment has nothing below 84 in it, and I've got all 100 players filled. So, I need something to plow my cards into. Teams aren't really changing too much. There's a couple of Evos that kind of come out and can go in, but I think it's time. We said last week about the fact that there were a number of icon SBCs out already by now. The player picks obviously came back last night, which is a nice touch, even if it's hard to get the cards for it. But I'm excited for it. I'm hoping they drop the pack weight. I got my first promo cards, or first decent
Boost the pack
cards.
weight, you mean, rather than drop it? I don't think they could drop it anymore.
I hope they boost it. So yeah, if they drop it, then we're probably only going to get silver players in these gold card packs. But no, it's got to be better, because I think, like I said, I think they're going to start seeing people properly switch off. And I think at the moment people are on the fence. They're saying, "Oh well, this isn't great. Pack weight's rubbish. Game's rubbish." But they're still playing it. I think that if you go another 2-3 weeks of terrible pack weight, where maybe like in our Discord, I think Ingvy's got a really good pull. He got Vinicius, but we're still not really seeing many, if any, sort of top players now. If we don't start seeing that, I could imagine you lose the players that are on the fence, and you'll only keep the absolute diehards that are kind of almost addicted to it in a way.
Yeah, with every day that you have what people would consider, and everyone's got their own level of what they consider good content. For every day that you have content that's not great, you give someone that excuse to go and find another game, or to go and focus on something else in their lives. And now, look, me and Shaq were talking about this the other week. Maybe that's a good thing. It's a good thing that this game hasn't quite got the same addictive qualities that maybe it has had in other years, and actually perhaps it's quite nice. I find myself on a personal level, I find myself on the companion app less, I'm on Footbin less, because I don't think there's that many upgrades around, and I don't think the pack luck's there, so I'm not grinding. There's no SBC for me to grind for, so I'm not going hard on BPM or the league SBCs. I'm still doing them, I'm still engaged, I'm still playing some games, but I'm not quite thinking about the game as often as I would do. So it might be considered a good thing. But look, I'm really hopeful. Like you said, it can't get any worse. And I think EA have got to, they will have the metrics. Certainly from the most vocal parts of the community, interest is dropping off. And those vocal parts are expressing the views of their communities as well. So they do have a reach beyond. It's not just, Nick is annoyed, Boras is annoyed, Nep is annoyed. They are seeing the opinions of their viewers as well. So they are kind of conveying them as well. So I think it's very hard to argue against the fact that this game has seen a dip. Again, you can look at all kind of different metrics to get a picture, whether it's the overall game charts. I think another pod pointed out the other day that FIFA had dropped below, FC25 had dropped below GTA 5 again in the charts. And, GTA 5 has been out for 10 years? It dropped below that. You look at the amount of live transfers in the market, it's dropping. You look at things like Steam charts and things like that, and year-on-year comparisons, it's dropping on that. And in Twitch viewership, it's dropping as well. So all of the, we don't get this complete picture, and there's mitigating factors to all of the things I've just said. But the overall picture and the overall evidence, just the general vibe, is that this game is struggling. It's never going to die, but it is struggling. So I'm hoping that with this promo around the corner, things can be good. But the negative of Black Friday promo of Thunderstruck, Nath, is that unfortunately it does send the transfer market into a tailspin. And unfortunately, if you've kind of been away for a couple of days, you might well have come back and noticed that your team value has taken a kind of a bit of a hit. Nath, kind of just explain in basic terms, I'm putting you in the Shaq role here. I'm putting you on the spot. In basic terms, quite why Black Friday does this to teams.
Yeah, so Black Friday traditionally always brings a panic. There's a ridiculous amount of lightning rounds, so every hour or sometimes even quicker, there are even more promo packs in the store. There's flash SBCs. Some of them tend to have good packs at the end of them, so better ways to get more players. If people are opening more packs through whatever means, obviously there's going to be more cards on the market. People will try and sell to get out when, potentially pack something. The fact there's another new promo, which traditionally has good pack weight, probably will mean that people with tradable higher end, maybe not the best, Mbappe will drop, but he's never going to drop, 2 million coins or whatever. But these type of things will impact. People will try and get rid of the coins and stay liquid, as you say, to try and get that, so they can either pick up other cards in the depth, or potentially get these nice new ones as well when the pack weight's good. Higher pack weight overall usually means that the older cards kind of go down because you're more likely to pack one of these better cards as well. So, I mean, it's quite exciting. You know, as you guys always laugh and joke, I'm a dragon, so I am completely untradeable with my nearly 2.5 mil. So I'm sitting pretty. I don't have to worry about selling. I don't have to worry about anything really. It's just what Evo to do is my biggest fear at the moment. But Black Friday is usually quite good, and sometimes it does go back up after Black Friday. So this is a well, I'm not really a trader anymore. I can't proclaim to be that, but as someone who has an interest in the market, there's probably going to be some nice opportunities to pick up cards that have completely dropped off a cliff that once these lightning rounds have finished, maybe by the end of the weekend or whatnot, then there's a chance for these to make some more coins.
Yeah, there is a bit of a snowball of panic effect, isn't it? It's let's say people will see their cards dropping, so they'll be rushing to try and get rid of them, fearing a bigger drop. I mean, you look at cards. I mean, just take Pateas as one example. If you go back to Thursday, she was 241,000 coins on console. You look now and you can pick one up for 178,000 coins. So again, dropping 20 odd percent. And I think that's pretty much the same across the board. Most of these big cards are dropping kind of 10 to 20%. And that is normal. That happens every year in the build up to Black Friday. It is just something that happens, albeit, it's funny because, like you mentioned, the lightning rounds used to be the big main attraction of Black Friday. One year you got buy one get one free on packs. Other years it was half price packs, and then they moved to there's a volume of packs you can buy. And now, I mean, if you don't need Black Friday, there's 21 different promo packs in the store again, Nate. My favorite number from last week. It was 19 last week. It was 21 now. So it's hard to know what they can do on the pack front to really tempt people in, but I'm sure we'll see some sort of bonkers 500,000 coin, 100 guaranteed players with 10 being 86 or higher or something like that to eke out that little bit more money. But yeah, Black Friday is coming. My advice, if you've got these cards, again, the harder to pack, out of card specials will probably do better and retain their value. Like Nay said, they might have a bounce back. Anything gold is pretty much going to be toast, unfortunately. And the wild card is last year they re-released some best of into packs. We used to always see a best of team of the week, and then they started adding it into different promos as well. So if you do start to see some leaks, you might want to sell. For example, I've got a Cole Palmer who's already dropped a bit, and I think he's down to about 360,000 as we sit here recording this. If he gets re-released into packs over Black Friday, can easily see 100k coming off that card, because the amount of volume of packs that will be opened will just knock it off. So if I see a leak of Cole Palmer going to be in there, I will sell and then probably try and buy back in the dip. But they provide good opportunities as well, because these re-release cards, in past years, I remember Teo Hernandez got re-released into packs around Black Friday. He had a Team of the Week version. It dropped. It was packed. And then again, these cards go out of packs again, and people suddenly want them. They don't suddenly become bad cards. They just drop because of the amount of supply, and they drop in the panic beforehand. So yeah, there is opportunity to go and make some coins off the other end as well. So don't worry too much if you are seeing your cards drop in value, especially if you're getting entertainment and good value out of them. Like I'm sitting here with several cards, as we talked about last week. I think my Ashley Cole that I bought for 460k is now down to about 270. My Cole Palmer's dropped about 100k. So I'm just riding it on down.
It's as you call it, Dan, it's your loan fee for using them. It's their appearance fees and the loan fees, which is a nice way to do it. Whereas I'm a dragon and I'm just waiting for them to drop that, ridiculous SPC at Black Friday, where if I don't have the fodder, I'm just going to plow my coins into that instead.
Exactly. Before we move on, we do have one question in the mailbag that I want to get to, but before that, I am going to play this noise. Nath, any player you particularly want to talk about for player and review this week?
There's not been a lot of change to my team. There's one Evo I'm in the process of doing, which is Camavinga's Rodri Ballon d'Or Evo, which seems quite nice. I've got two new strikers in my starting lineup, though. I've got the 100 Club Alvarez, and I've got Tell from the League SBC. So it's probably more prevalent to talk about Tell, because I know that's probably one that people may be sitting on the fence for. So I'll not go deep into the stats. His face stats are really nice for a striker, apart from I think it's his reactions are slightly slow. The power shot pre-patch was excellent. He's got top speed, top pace if you put a Hunter on, same with his finishing. Like I say, the power shot was ridiculous. Obviously, I need to test it out a bit more post-patch. But if you guys need a Bundes striker either to link to Musiala or Kane that's currently able to be unlocked through the SBC, or the Daniel Madeline from, I think it's level 34. Very, very good player. He's got, I don't know how tall he is. I think he's 6'1", 6'2", but he's actually decent in the air as well. So I like that physical presence. All around good player. If he was on the market, he'd definitely be 100 to 150k. So not bad if you've got the players to do the upgrade grind. So I would actually recommend doing it, considering it took me a wee minute to decide that actually I'm going to throw myself in and get him.
I mean, yeah, my team has barely changed as well. Over the last 2 weeks, it's barely evolved at all. We run the community team of the week, of course, over on the Discord, and everyone uses it kind of as a way to keep up with their team over the year. You just post a picture, and I looked at the team that I posted 2-3 weeks ago, and I think I've changed like 2 people. So I can't really comment too much on players that I want, that I've used or can really review. Just for the sake of, filling the space, again, I will give a hearty thumbs up to Araujo's Road to the Knockouts card, just because it's come down a bit in price now. It is down to 640k, and he's just an absolutely fantastic defender. He's dropped because he's not really going to get any more upgrades. I don't see Barcelona finishing in the top 2 of the Champions League group, but just does everything really nicely. Just that the block plus is great. Just him and Kanate. I've got the 85 Kanate, put him through Le Bleu Evo, and just they're a really solid partnership. So if this card were to get re-released into packs, for example, over Black Friday, would highly recommend going out and picking him up. I think he is absolutely worth 640k. If you do have that kind of budget for a defender, can very much give him a thumbs up. So that would be mine. The player I'm hoping to review next week is, I did have a little bit of pack luck today. I managed to pack Diaby's Track Stars card. So I'll be looking to try that one out. And you had a very good Track Stars pull as well this week, Nath. People will be not shocked to hear.
I did. I got a Mickey van de Ven, so I've had to jig things around, and unfortunately it means that Rudiger's been dropped, but not overly impressed with him, considering he was about 700k. I don't know what he is today. Unfortunately, he's untradeable, so I can't cash in, but he's decent. He's what you'd expect from Van de Ven, but I think because he's not that big-bodied bruiser, then he's not quite as fun for me as a battering ram.
Yeah, down to 620k. Would you pay that?
No. I think if you say he was about 400k, I'd say yes, because he's miles better than Saliba, in my opinion. He is better than Rudiger. He's kind of on par with Varane, so he's not dreadful. I'm not saying he's a bad card, but I very rarely would pay that amount for any defender, in all honesty.
I don't think you'd pay 42k for a defender, knowing you.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't. I'd wait for an Evo and put him in there in however many months' time.
I was going to say, you struggle to part with coins for a bronze pack. Needs to start calling you Ebenezer as it's Christmas.
Yeah, I'll take that. The Christmas tunes have been flowing for the last few days anyway, so I'll take that.
Ebenezer Scout. Just before we go, let's deal with a couple of... That sounds really harsh. I really like the questions we get. Of course, you can join the Discord for absolutely free, and we've got a segment there for submitting your questions into mailbag. Of course, don't forget as well, John is doing Foot 101, which is basically a there is no stupid questions section. So if you are new to the game, or even if you're old and you've always thought, can you actually explain different types? What's the difference between single tap cross, double tap cross? What happens if you double tap triangle and things like that? Or what do D-pad tactics do? That is a section for that. So please get those questions in. Again, it's a very safe space for, just answering those questions that you've never really understood, or, just getting clarification on when's the best time to use like second man press, for example. Things like that. So again, there's a Foot 101 section, but of course you can leave comments on all of our socials, Foot in Review and Foot Coaching, best places to go for that. Anyway, Lead Soldier has asked, should there be a second tier weekend league, a Europa League equivalent, if you will, somewhere lower players can still play competitive on a weekend with lower rewards? I think that would get more people engaged with the game again. Look, I think this came up on Friday's show with John and the gang as well. I think they pitched it again. And I know I pitched this idea about 2-3 years ago, Nath, but I mean, where do you stand on it?
Yeah, I like the concept. I do. I think somewhere that's in between rivals, because rivals at the moment seems to be get your wins in and that's it, that's you done. So I'd quite like that. Or to be fair, I'd be open just to a one weekend league. Maybe, is it 3 wins out of 5 now? I think did 3 wins even out of 6 or something would be nice. And it's now not weekend league; it's champs. So I don't understand why we can't extend it to a Tuesday or Wednesday like you did before. It gives you a few days to do other stuff as well. But I don't mind. I like the idea of different competitions with potentially different rewards. But there's also so much to do at the moment. I'm not devastated, but my main thing in terms of weekend league champs is to extend it to cover a few more days to give you more time to do it.
Yeah, and my example would be, well, why don't you just, instead of making a separate playoffs and weekend league, why don't you just have it all rolled into one? And so your first 6 games or 5 games or whatever will then determine what competition you go into. Say you had 6 games, you win 5 or 6, you go into the Champions League. 3 and 4, you go into the Europa League, and 1 and 2, you go into the Conference League. And look, the argument is always, okay, well, people will just deliberately chuck games to get easier matchmaking. But if you make the rewards, worth it, people will go for the higher standard. They will aim for that. If you're getting guaranteed promo cards, then you're going to try and go for that Champions League spot. Whereas if the Conference League was just, I don't know, just packs for fodder, maybe. The chances of a top player wanting to drop in just to get a 75 by 25, it's not that high, is it?
No, exactly. So I think it's a great concept. Unfortunately, I don't see it happening anytime soon because they've kind of put all their eggs in one basket of champs being champs in the elite thing, which I can understand that, to be fair. But there's different ways that I would like to see it adapted, at least to maybe be more inclusive in some way without maybe detracting the fact that they want champs to be the elite sort of pinnacle of the game.
Yeah, just as I said, and they talked about this on Friday's show, and as Lead Soldier said, just a place for people to play other than rivals, I think would be a very welcome thing. And again, if you make it tiered enough and give people enough incentive, you don't have to worry about the griefer aspect of it. So yeah, I'm very much in favour of it. And the final question today comes from Adam. My question is going to be, are there any SBCs you regret not doing or you do regret doing? I regret not doing the Nico Williams one. I use his gold and he's really good, though he was very expensive. So we actually had this conversation, I think, off pod yesterday, funnily enough, before Adam sent this question in. So I think my answer was very much no. I don't think there is anybody. I think maybe in the first couple of weeks I thought, oh, maybe I should have done Alaba because he did appear a very good fullback and defensive midfielder. But otherwise, no, I'm pretty content. Nath, you?
Yeah, I'm the same. I mean, if it was out now, I probably would have done a lot of the American League women cards because they actually seem really good to come up against, and my club is like bursting with fodder. But I don't know how much that is regretting not doing them and how much I'm bored with the options that they currently are just now. So there's nothing there that I'm like, oh, I wish I did. I've done, the 2 Rams, I've done Sissoko. I've avoided most of the gamble SBCs apart from the cheap ones. So nothing there that I'm like, that they were must-dos that I didn't do. I missed out on doing Angel Gomez, who wouldn't get even near the team, but I would have liked him for future Evos because I was holding off doing him to do him with my SBC ones, and I totally forgot and missed the cutoff. So that's more because it's a United past and present player. But apart from that, there's not really anyone else that I'm like, oh, that one I really should have done.
Yeah, I'm the same. And I mean, look, part of me thinks maybe I could have done 1 or 2 more gambles, like a hero pack or an icon pack. But the other side is I've still got all this fodder, and if another card on that Pateus level, I think I could probably go out and do Pateus for pretty much free with the amount of stuff I've got in my club at the moment. It is that I'm a bit like you. My SBC storage is just rammed full of 85 plus cards at the moment. I've got lots of tradable ones as well that I'm hanging on to, waiting to see if they spike in value. So I'm more content. And it's also forced me to use my team more regularly and get to know my players more. The amount of players I've now got like 100 plus games on. And as I mentioned, like my team's barely changed for 2 weeks. Like I'm still using gold Chloe Kelly on the right wing, for example. So, I've had the chance to really get to know the ins and outs of those players and what they do best. So yeah, I think I'll fall onto that side. But anything else for you to raise before we go?
No, not a lot. I'm quite intrigued to see. I think that the content's been a slight step up. maybe not even a step, maybe it's tripped up a little bit rather than a full blown step. But I'm quite intrigued to see if they've kind of started to sort of give a bit of slack to the content, and maybe we can see it going upwards. Because while you were talking before about different things happening and the state of it, like all it takes is one beast of a promo and everyone will come running back. As soon as you see somebody, so one of the bigger creators go, actually, this is nuts, this is really good, the game will, like, people will flood back. So I'm hoping that in the next week or so we'll see that, and they'll unleash this absolute demon of a promo that, not saying everyone gets top tier cards, but you start seeing more promos and more fun and more SBCs, and I'm hoping that happens because it'll make the whole game more enjoyable if there's a wider player base as well.
Yeah, and look, do we maybe get more listeners and more engagement when the game is bad? Sure. But do I want to be talking about a good game? Absolutely. I want to be sit here talking to you about the dilemma I had between picking between 3 different new promo players, that I've got 2 or 3 different Evo pass that I'm really torn on. I had a really enjoyable, I got my best weekend league finish of the year. The weekend I got 10-5, which for me is, brilliant. Because, I've had some weeks this year where I've ended up with 7 wins. But it was still against that backdrop of, okay, well, I've done well, but what do I do from this point? It doesn't quite hit home when the overall atmosphere around the game isn't good. So look, let's hope that comes. Again, stay tuned to the feed. We'll have the daily shows back the next couple of days. The main show will return Friday night for Patreon subscribers, Saturday morning for the rest of you out there. Again, patreon.com/Foot In Review if you want to support us. Use it as that digital tip jar, but it also gives you benefits. We give back as well. The Art of Foot Show, exclusive early access to all bits and pieces and all the details there. And it starts, as I was mentioned, from, I think it's about $5 a month, which is less than you'd pay for a service station coffee. So Costa don't really need your money, nor does Starbucks, but we do. However, if you are Starbucks or Costa and want to support this show and sponsor us, we will happily shill your product, and we're open to that. So hit us up.
Gingerbread latte this way, please.
Indeed, yeah, no, and we're very easily bought as well. So look, thank you to everybody out there. Best of luck over the next few days. Let's hope the patch brings a bit more enjoyable gameplay, and let's hope that the content is ramping up from this point. Only one thing left to do, Nath.
Drop it.
We are going to drop it.